Thanks for tuning in. I'm Brock Page, and if you want to save yourself some time, check out my picks for this video in the description section below. Once again, I'm not a sports betting expert, I'm just a fan. Houston and San Antonio won their games last night, successfully completing my two-team parlay. That said, let's go ahead and get into some picks for February 1st. First game I have for you, Charlotte at Golden State. Golden State opened up minus 14. They're now giving up 15. Total points are at 223. Golden State's laying 2,000 for some money line cash. Projected scratches, Zeller for Charlotte, West for Golden State. All that said, let's go ahead and take a look at some numbers against the spread. Overall, Golden State 49%, Charlotte just 44%. At home, 54% for Golden State, just 39% on the road for Charlotte. As the favorite, Golden State covers 49% of their games. Charlotte, on the other side, has covered just 4 of 14 games as the underdog. Here's a good one for you. At the current point spread, Golden State's covered an impressive 69% of their games so far this year. As the official home favorite, Golden State's covered 54% of their games, compared to Charlotte's meager 37% as the road underdog. Here's another impressive number. Golden State's covered a staggering 80% of their games against teams around 500. Along with failing to cover in their first matchup, Charlotte's covered just 30% of their games, facing teams giving up more than 102 a game. They also covered just 3 of 10 in the second game of a back-to-back. Even worse, they're right in the midst of a 5-game losing streak. Convincing numbers aside, let's go ahead and take a look at the total points real quick. Once again, the total points opened up and remains at 223. Both teams are collectively averaging 218 total combined points in their last 4 games, respectively. Even more, Golden State's games have gone under the line in 7 of their last 8. All that said, I'm foregoing the spread and the total points. I like Golden State winning this one outright as game 1 of my two-teamer. Once again, I'm taking Golden State to win this one outright as the first game of my two-team parlay. Next game I have for you, Milwaukee at Utah. The betting opened up with Utah as the 7-point favorites and the total points at 199. Since then, Utah is now minus 8.5 with the total points dropping down to 197. Utah is currently laying 370 for some money line cash. Projected scratches, Middleton for Milwaukee, none for Utah. All that said, let's go ahead and take a look at some numbers against the spread. 44% against the points at home for Utah. Milwaukee's covered just 7 of 22 on the road. Utah covers 50% as the favorite. On the other side, the Bucks cover just 42% as the underdog or pick'em. Milwaukee's also covered just 6 of 18 as the official road underdog. They've also covered just 40% of their games against teams winning more than 55%. Numbers aside, let's break down the total points real quick. Once again, the total points opened up at 199 and has since dropped down to 197. Both teams are collectively averaging 205 total combined points in their last 4 games respectively. In addition to that, Milwaukee's games have gone over the line in 4 of their last 5. Having said all that, I'm foregoing the total points and the spread. I like Utah winning this one outright as game 2 of my two-teamer. Once again, I'm taking Utah to win this one outright as the second game of my two-team parlay. With my two-teamer in the books, there's still plenty of other action in the NBA, so let's dive into some of those matchups. Minnesota plus 8.5 at Cleveland, total of 213.5. The Cavs covered just 6 of 19 against teams winning less than 45%. They also covered just 38% against teams giving up more than 102 a game. On the other side, Minnesota's covered a solid 67% this year in games at the current point spread. They've also gone 11-8 against the spread facing teams winning more than 55%. Both teams have collectively averaged 220 total combined points in their last 4 games respectively. All that said, I like the spread here. I'm going to adjust that line and take Minnesota plus 13.5 as game 1 of my two-team 5-point teaser. Once again, I'm taking Minnesota plus 13.5 as the first game of my two-team 5-point teaser. Next game, New Orleans plus 8 at Detroit. Total of 212. The Pelicans have covered 50% of their games overall versus Detroit's 43%. The Pistons are just 44% against the spread as the favorite, where New Orleans covers 55% of their games as the dog. As the official home favorite, Detroit's covered just 7 of 17 games. Both teams are collectively averaging 217 total combined points in their last 4 games respectively. All that said, I'm digging the spread here. I'm going to move the line a little bit. I like New Orleans plus 13 as the second game of my two-team teaser. Once again, I'm taking New Orleans plus 13 as game 2 of my 5-point teaser. With my 5-pointer now in the books, there's still plenty of other action in the NBA, so let's dive into some of those matchups as well. Indiana minus 1.5 at Orlando. 73% of the cash is on the Pacers to win and cover. I'm in full agreement with that. The total points opened up at 214, dropped down to 212.5. That's nice and all. I just can't help myself here. I'm loving the Indiana Pacers minus 1.5 on the spread at Orlando. Next game, Atlanta plus 1.5 at Miami. Total dropped 1 point to an even 205. Miami's won 8 straight. They're red hot. I really don't care. Atlanta's a solid 8-4 against the spread as the underdog. Miami covered just 9 of 19 facing teams over 500. Give me the Atlanta Hawks plus 1.5 on the spread. Next game, New York minus 3.5 at Brooklyn. Total jumped up 2.5 points to 223.5. The Knicks are laying 145 on the money line. New York covers a solid 63% going in the games as the favorite. Along with covering in their first game, the Knicks also cover 62% of their games at the current point spread. All that said, I don't want to give up any points here. The money line cash is solid. I'm taking the New York Knicks winning outright, laying 145 for some money line cash. Next game, Philly plus 6.5 at Dallas. Totals at 201.5. The Mavs won 4 out of their last 5 with marquee wins over Cleveland and San Antonio back-to-back. 53% of the money's on the Sixers to win against the spread despite being without Embiid tonight. Not sure if I can determine a winner, however. Both teams are collectively averaging 218 total combined points in their last 4 games respectively. Sixers games have gone over the line in their last 6 straight. Dallas games have gone over in 2 of their last 3. I'm liking the total points in this one. I'm taking the over 201.5 in tonight's matchup in Dallas. Next game I have for you, Clippers minus 2.5 at Phoenix. Totals at 220. Both teams are collectively averaging 229 total combined points in their last 4 games respectively. Clippers are struggling without CP3, but Phoenix is struggling even more. 66% of the money's on the Clippers, and I am in full agreement. I'm going to forget about the total points and go with the sure bet. I like the Clippers minus 2.5 to win this one against the spread. Next game I have for you, it's the final one of this episode. Chicago plus 3 at OKC. Total dropped 0.5 point to 206.5. Look for OKC to bounce back after some tough road losses to Cleveland and San Antonio. The betting actually opened up with OKC laying 6 points, but the bettors were in vehement disagreement. I don't want to give up any points, but I do like the payout on the money line. I like OKC winning this one outright at home, laying 160 for some money line cash. Well, folks, that's going to do it for me. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. Now, if for some reason you decide to use the information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. Most importantly, if you're betting any of these games, do it safe, do it responsibly, and most important, have fun. For Brock Page Predictions and Sports Picks, I'm Brock Page, and have yourself a positive day.